Now to the ongoing fallout from Tuesday's aerial encounter between a Russian fighter jet and a U.S. spy drone over the Black Sea. The White House says yesterday's dramatic footage purporting to show the incident, quote, decimates the Russian lie about what they say happened. Russian officials claim their jet did not hit the U.S. drone. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to visit Moscow next week for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The state visit comes amid growing U.S. concerns that Beijing is considering sending lethal aid to support Russia in its war against Ukraine. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now for more on all of this. Monica, let's start with the incident in the Black Sea. The Pentagon released this footage fairly quickly. Why did they decide to do that, and what are you hearing from White House officials?
Hi there, Ellison. That's right. Essentially, this was to combat the narrative that the Russians had put out, that they didn't interact, that their aircraft didn't come into contact with this U.S. drone. And that's why the Pentagon released this footage that clearly shows that the Russian jet, as you see there, approaches the drone, pours fuel on it, and then returns several times, eventually clipping those propeller blades, which is what led the U.S. to decide that ultimately they needed to down it, but not before wiping what they believe was the most sensitive data from there. So there's still major questions, though, about why this happened, what contributed to it. And we heard a little bit more from White House spokesman John Kirby on that assessment yesterday.
It's pretty darn obvious when you look at that video that fighter jet hit our drone. At best, it's reckless flying. At worst, it's reckless and incompetent. We don't know whether it is also intentional.
And we may never know whether it was intentional, according to U.S. officials, but certainly it contributes to these rising tensions. But the U.S. was very clear yesterday that they don't seek conflict with Russia. Again, this all happened over international airspace. The Kremlin continues to say the U.S. was acting in a hostile manner. But that's why I think you saw the Pentagon release this video, again, to refute that and to back the U.S. narrative of what really occurred here, Ellison.
Has Russia commented since this footage came out?
So they said from the very beginning, again, that this was not their doing. They tried to deny any of that. And then since the video has come out, we haven't really seen as much of a response. The Russian Foreign Ministry just continues to say that it was the U.S. acting irresponsibly, when, of course, that's what Secretary of State Blinken has continued to say of the Russians. But we did hear a little bit more about the recovery efforts now underway, which, because of the depths of the Black Sea, are going to be completely complicated. But the Pentagon did offer a little more insight into how that could work if it does take place yesterday.
We do have indications that Russia is likely making an effort to try to recover MQ-9 debris. However, we assess it's very unlikely that they would be able to recover anything useful, given a couple of factors. One, the fact, and I'm not going to go into details, but that we took steps to protect information aboard that aircraft. And two, the fact that it crashed in extremely deep water.
So now the U.S. says they will continue to operate and fly U.S. drones in this region. They won't make any changes to that, but certainly another incident like this would add to already very tense relationships between the U.S. and Russia at this time, also.
And Monica, quickly, while we have you, we mentioned earlier Chinese President Xi plans to sit down with Russian President Putin next week. How closely is the White House going to watch that?
They'll very much be watching this, and that's because we already know that China had offered non-lethal aid to Russia in its invasion of Ukraine, but there were fears over the last couple of weeks that that could change to lethal aid, and that's when we're talking about weapons, artillery, ammunition, things you would actually see on the battlefield that could contribute to loss of life. Now, U.S. intelligence officials believe that hasn't occurred yet, but again, given these talks, they'll be watching very closely to see if that does escalate to the next step, which would be incredibly significant, and which the U.S. says would be a bit of a game changer here, and that then China would face repercussions should they decide to make that move. Ellison.
Right. Monica Alba, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.